Two humorous nurses would like to acknowledge the true custodians of the land in which we record our podcast, the Yorta Yorta people.
We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend our respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders listening today. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Two humorous nurses, Kelly and Alisha. Hang on. Two humorous nurses with Kelly and Alisha.
The podcast that never reveals its age.
Welcome to Two Humorous Nurses. We plan to bring you funny, informal, conversational chat about all things nursing.
For some reason, the intro is really funny.
That's because I'm not reading it off anything. You think after nearly 4 years I'd remember it?
Oh my God, it has not been that long.
October 2024. 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay.
Oh my God.
3.5 years.
That's insane. And this is only our second Doctors Who kill in 4 years, in 3.5 years. Can you believe we've been doing this that long? My God.
Yeah. I know.
It's a lot. It's a long.
It's like the longest I've ever stuck to
I was
anything
gonna
other
say,
than my
this
marriage.
This is literally my longest commitment. Which is not true. Husband, mortgage, that's probably it. And kids, I guess, are a commitment.
They're not 3.5 yet, though. The podcast is older.
The podcast is older than my children. That's crazy. I'm excited about this Doctors Who kill.
Well, I've taken the term doctor
loosely.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, let's be serious. I don't even know if mine was a real doctor. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
We're doing this with one microphone if we sound a bit silly because, I mean, it's only been 3.5 years. You'd think we'd organise ourselves.
And we're back in my kitchen.
Yeah.
With my 2 sleeping children in the house.
We sent Mick to the bedroom with the dog and and a cheese sandwich by the looks of what he was making. Right. My doctor, in quotation marks, is H.H. Holmes.
I've heard of this person.
Yeah. So he was born in May 16. So happy birthday for the other day. May 16th, 1861 in Gilmanton, North New Hampshire. So he was technically a doctor, however, he was considered more of a con artist and considered to be America's first serial killer. Dun, dun, dun.
Maybe that's how I know the name.
Yeah. His actual name was Herman Mudgett. Mudgett. And he was born into quite a wealthy family. His father was a farmer but also a heavy drinker who cruelly mistreated the family. It's a tale as old as time. He was a bright child who graduated from high school with honours. He was bullied a lot at school for his outstanding academic capabilities. Like, he was really smart. In one incident, he was forced to stand in front of a human skeleton and put the skeleton's hands on his face in an effort to frighten. They put the skeleton's hands on his face to frighten him. Initially, he was terrified, but Holmes later discovered the experience to be intriguing and claimed that it helped him overcome his worries. Holmes subsequently developed an obsession with death, and as a result of the encounter, later took up pastimes of dissecting animals. Yeah. It's alleged that Holmes trapped animals and performed surgeries on them.
Actually, I think I have heard of this person.
He showed a keen interest in medicine, and he did attend medical school at the University of Michigan, but was a mediocre student who almost didn't graduate. Probably not for why you think, but he, as was common of the times, a widow hairdresser accused him of making false promise to marry her. But it was said in the notes he probably just wanted a free haircut and a moustache trim. He has the most epic moustache. Moustache. How do you say that word? Moustache. Moustache? Mustache. The thing on the upper lip. Moustache. Moustache sounds right. It's the dumbest word.
It's the hardest word to get right.
So he was when he was enrolled at the University of Michigan, he worked in the anatomy lab under Professor William James Herdman, who was the chief anatomy instructor, and the two were said to have engaged in a facilitating grave robbing to supply medical cadavers. So that was very common back in the day to use, dead bodies, especially of people.
From the cemetery.
Well, just people that die use their bodies at like for all sorts of reasons in the medical world.
And there's still been a lot of unknowns.
Yeah. But grave robbing was like not legal even back then. He had an apprenticeship at a New Hampshire who also was under Dr. White, who was also an advocate for human dissection. So he had these two mentors that basically helped him grave rob.
Foreigners.
And, yeah, they were ahead of their time.
They're just doing autopsies.
So Holmes was suspected of many murders and actually confessed to quite a few murders, but basically was only jailed for insurance fraud. But eventually he did get caught for one murder, but there's like many suspected murders. So he used cadavers in his like conman life to defraud insurance companies out of life savings. What? Yeah.
That's impressive.
After graduating medical school, Holmes moved to Chicago, where he began to use the pseudonym H.H. Holmes. He commenced work in a drugstore, and he was a really hard worker and eventually ended up buying the store. He also purchased the block across the road and built what would end up being called the Holmes's Murder Castle. It was 3 stories, mixed-use building with the first floor a retail space, a second floor was apartments, and eventually the third floor was intended to be used as a hotel during the Chicago World Fair in 1893. It is alleged during that time that he seduced and murdered a number of women, typically to become engaged and then killing them after securing financial control of their life savings. The building was sensationalised to have contained torture chambers, a basement crematorium, trapdoors, a gas chamber. It was supposed to have over 100 rooms and be laid out like a maze, with doors opening directly to brick walls, windowless rooms, dead-end staircases. But in reality, it was just a largely unremarkable and uncompleted because he refused to pay contractors and often work was never completed. He also owned a factory which was supposedly used for glass bending. However, the furnace in the factory was speculated to be used to destroy incriminating evidence of his crimes. So the murder castle was a lot more fantasy and fiction than it was like reality stuff. There was all this, like the haunted house on the corner situation. But exactly. So the presumed murders are as follows. In 1880, before arriving in Chicago, he went under the alias of Herman Webster Mudgett, and his first presumed murders were around Chattanooga area of Hickston, Tennessee. He's suspected to have murdered a train conductor by the name of William C. Berman. He was a 56-year-old who Holmes reportedly stole Berman's identity while running from a series of murders that took place in North Georgia. He also had a mistress at the time who was the wife of another doctor. They moved into Holmes's building and began working in the pharmacy jewelry counter. He after the doctor found out about the affair of his wife and Holmes, he quit his job and moved away, leaving his wife and 5-year-old daughter with Holmes.
Oh my God, it's like a telenovela.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Like Anyway, so he gained
a daughter.
Yeah, he gained custody of her and continued the relationship with the.
Was it going to be like a Willie Nelson story? How he ends up with his stepdaughter?
No, they all end up dead. So anyway, both those girls disappear on Christmas Eve in 1891. Holmes initially claimed to friends that Julia had left unexpectedly to visit her dying sister. And then changed all these stories and basically the girlfriend, it wasn't the daughters, it was the girlfriend and her daughter. Yeah. Basically she left to go back to her old husband and stuff. They were gone. He did also claim later that she died during an abortion attempt, despite his medical background. Holmes was unlikely to have experience in carrying out abortions, and mortality from such a procedure at that time was very, very high. He claimed that he poisoned the daughter and to hide the circumstances of the mother's death. Oh my God. Yeah. A partial skeleton, possibly of a child, around the age of the daughter was found when excavating the cellar of the murder castle. There was actually quite a lot found in down there. So, yeah. Another one was, and they're all people that he ends up having all these relationships with. So he got a job working for another doctor trying to sell vaccines to cure alcoholism. So they teamed up. And
normal sailor.
Yeah. I mean, it's in 1892. Who knows what it was. So she disappeared. The wife of that person disappeared and was last seen months after they first got together. Her parents were informed that she'd left to marry a man called Robert Phelps. Authorities hypothesized that she'd gotten pregnant by Holmes and possibly been a victim of another failed abortion. Oh my God. Her empty luggage trunk was sent back to her mother in Indiana, and the skeleton was found at the home of the Chicago physician. Oh. Yeah. So this Chicago physician was actually admitted to helping Holmes articulate 3 skeletons, which I'm assuming just means cut up or disassemble or something. A few years later...
So they could have been his murder victim.
Yes, but he would have sold it off as like a grave robber. Yeah. So a few years later in 1893, 24-year-old one-time actress named Wilhelmina Minnie Williams, I don't know why she was one time, probably because she died, claimed to have met her in an employment office. And again, he was going by yet another different name, offered her a job at the hotel as his personal stenographer. So she accepted, and then Holmes managed to persuade her to transfer the deed of her property in Fort Worth, Texas, to a man named Alexander Bond, which was just an alias of Holmes. So he transferred that over. He signed the deed over to this man called Pitzel. I can't pronounce all their names, but anyway, we'll run with that. And then, which we'll hear about a bit later. And then basically she went missing. Voila, they have a property, which they obviously sell for fraud. So there's all this like conning people into giving away their wealth, giving away their children, giving away everything, and then he just cons everybody. Yeah, pretty much. So the youngest sister of this Minnie came to visit, and the auntie, she wrote to the auntie that she would be accompanying Brother Harry, which is his alias, to Europe, and signs off saying, Brother Harry, which is Holmes, obviously, says you need to never trouble any more about me financially or otherwise. He and my sister will see to me. I hope our hard days are over. Neither Minnie nor Nanny, the sister, were ever seen alive again. Oh. And subsequently, Holmes would use Minnie's name in future scams. There was also another bloke who died of apoplexy. Do you know what that is?
Huh? Did you Google it?
Yeah, I did Google. I can't remember what it is now. It's some kind of bleed, basically. He died at the murder castle's drugstore. He collapsed and died shortly after Holmes poured black liquid down his throat. Oh, God. According to a witness, foul play was not suspected. It was determined that his life had been insured and that Holmes had profited from his death. Shocking. There was another lady who worked at his drugstore. Holmes spoke of her in his confession, and she basically was listed on the list of suspected victims, but they actually couldn't find her body. But he listed her as someone he murdered. Yeah, that's right, in the glass blowing. There was so many more. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like multiple. But through all this, he had a sidekick called Benjamin Pitestool, who
Let me see how you spell his name.
Pitziel, Pitziel, Partiziel. Petizel. The district attorney described this bloke as Holmes's creature. It was like his right-hand man. Like he did anything Holmes wanted, he did. Like they're obviously like low life, but Holmes obviously had enough charisma to suck. Yeah, that's right. Suck all these people in. And he had money to a certain extent. Like he owned lots of property. He was always well dressed. Yeah.
It becomes a thrill, like an addiction.
Yeah. So he was arrested and jailed for selling mortgaged goods, but he was bailed out quite quickly after being arrested. He made friends with another outlaw in jail who Holmes convinced him that he would fake his own death to swindle insurance company for $10,000. He would give this outlaw criminal a small commission if he found him a lawyer who he could trust. So he did. He found him a lawyer who thought this plan of faking his own death was going to be genius and they were all going to get rich. However, he did fake his own death and the insurance company was like, no, we don't believe you. You're not getting the money. So Holmes convinced Petiziel Mr. P to fake his death instead. Now he was married with children, Mr. P. Yeah. Anyway, he did everything Holmes said. So he faked his own death. The plan was that they would make it look like he had died in a fire in a building and then they would grave rob a body and put it in there so that it, because you can't really determine it from a fire. Yeah. Obviously, they didn't have dental records back then. So it failed because Holmes ended up killing Mr. P. He used chloroform and unfortunately killed him and then set him on fire. But again, they were like, he was already dead. This fire didn't kill him, so it didn't look like a suicide. It looked like a murder. So they looked directly at Holmes. Before that happened, though, they did get the money from the insurance company because there was a body. So they get the insurance money. Mr. P's wife gives Holmes custody of 3 or 5 of their children. They all travel together, though, not together but close enough. So they all travel from wherever they are to Boston. And they live like streets apart for quite a while. In Boston, a couple of years later, I think this is like 2 years after, the private Pinkerton National Detective Agency has been tracking Holmes, right? Because they're super suspicious of what's going on. There's outstanding warrants for horse theft in Texas. And they were thinking that he was planning to flee the country because Holmes has a wife at this point, but he's stringing along Mr. P's ex or widow and a couple of kids. Anyway, it's very confusing, but basically he gets arrested because they think he's going to leave the country and he gets charged with Mr. P's murder. It's the only murder he gets charged with. He gets found guilty and sentenced to death. By this point, it's evident that Holmes has also murdered the 3 children of Mr. P because they went missing and no one could find them. Following the conviction, Holmes confessed to 27 murders in Chicago, Indianapolis, Toronto, and 6 attempted murders. Holmes was paid $7,500 by the newspaper company in exchange for his confessions. He wrote his confessions whilst in prison, and he mentioned how drastically his face appearance changed since his imprisonment. Like anyone cares, mate. Like no one cares about that. But he got paid a shit ton of money, almost as much as he would get from his insurance frauds to confession. But he only got he was only ever tried for one murder. And that's what they said. They said the murder of Mr. P was basically the best one they had.
Yeah. And the evidence would have been like the most recent.
Yeah. They did find evidence of the 3 missing children. Again, in one of the homes that he was in, there was a travel, like luggage box, I guess what they used to use, with the 2 girls in it with holes in the side that he'd gassed them. Yeah, gross. So he was hung a few years after his arrest at a prison in, I don't know where it is, Masing prison. Anyway. Till the moment of his death, Holmes remained calm and amiable, showed very few signs of fear, anxiety or depression. He asked for his coffin to be contained in concrete and buried 10 feet deep because he was concerned grave robbers would steal his body and use it for dissection.
People like him, their bodies should go to...
Yeah, he shouldn't be buried. He should just be like... His neck did not break in the hanging. Instead, he was strangled to death slowly, twitching for over 15 minutes before being pronounced dead.
That's karma.
That is karma. And I hope someone did rob his grave. Anyway, this is a bit long-winded. A bit long-winded. Not sure if he's a doctor or not. But I was a bit like, there was just so many murders. I mean, he finished medical school. He's probably more...
Apprenticeship, didn't he say?
He did. And then he owned a drugstore. I mean, he's basically a pharmacist.
Pharmacist who killed.
Apothecary. He owned an apothecary.
That's good. It was actually quite riveting.
I think I like the old stories because you can just imagine like what they... I'll show you.
And they can get away with stuff so differently, like that, you know, the evidence, the policing, the legal system, it was all very different. And like the whole insurance fraud thing, like that. Look at him. I mean, that would...
He's quite a handsome man.
Oh, he is. He's kind of my type, really, isn't he? I mean, not the murderous part.
Look at that moustache.
He's quite attractive. He looks like he's got light-coloured eyes. Nice dark hair.
Brows.
He's actually quite beautiful.
Got a nice hat.
I mean, if I was what year was he born? No, 1894. 1860. If I was born in the 1860s, I reckon I'd think he was a bit of a babe.
I think that's why he got away with murder.
Yeah, he was kind of hot. I mean, not so much
Someone's
in these ones.
To Keanu Reeves.
He does kind of look... Well, he doesn't look like Keanu Reeves, but...
Did
Keanu Reeves...
Did they make a movie about
Maybe
him?
they did, actually. Keanu Reeves to star in Martin Scorsese.
Oh, Devil in the White City.
Hulu series about 19th century serial killer H.H. Holmes. The Devil in the White City. Is that this year? Oh, and there's a book. Eric Larson's 2003 book, The Devil in the White City. Murder, Magic and... something else. Wow. Well, I don't think anyone's going to write a book or do a movie about my guy.
This is this murder castle they were talking
That's
about.
the fantastical version of the murder
that's
castle.
right. Like with all the
It's like an animation. Look at the hole in the middle of the floor.
Skeletons just hanging down the bottom.
We'll put these on the stories. Oh, yeah. No one's writing anything about my guy. My guy's fucking. This is pretty horrific in a different way. Yours is like horrific as in like full on mass murder, and mine is horrific like just horrific. So my guy, don't laugh, I'm going to pronounce a Nigerian name and probably butcher it. Dr. Isiaka Maman Akaaba.
What are you going to call him?
Maman. No, Maman is how he's like referenced. Yeah. Or Maman. Maman. Sounds better. So he's a hematologist, originally from Nigeria, who practiced medicine in the UK since 1994, right? So he was query 51 years of age at this point, right? So this is like the weirdest. It's just weird. During his medical training, he said he was born on the 16th of September 1936, meaning he was 21 when he began his training as a doctor, which would be kind of normal age range, I guess. Qualified in 1965, and he was 81 at the time of this fatal incident that happened. But then he also told the NHS that he'd been born in 1941, so 5 years later than he actually was, suggesting that he commenced his medical degree at 16, which is probably not correct. And then in 2001, he was approaching the then compulsory retirement age of 65. He adopted an even later birth date of October 1947 when he was applying for naturalisation as a British citizen. So this would have meant that he was 10 when he started his medical degree. In 2004, so he immigrates over to the UK and in 1994, and in I've lost my spot. In 2004, he begins working for Pennine Acute NHS Trust, which runs the Royal Oldham Hospital. Later that year, so as far as I can tell, up until this point, working as a haematologist, not having any problems at work, right? Doing the right thing, saving people's lives, you know, the usual as a doco. Then later that year in 2004, he's found guilty of serious professional misconduct by the General Medical Council and suspended for 12 months for lying about his age. So I think you can maybe understand it. Apparently he was born in like a rural Nigerian town where they don't actually keep records of people's births. So I don't think he even really knew when he was born. Yeah. Maybe, potentially. Yeah. And then as he was getting older, he was like, well, maybe I'm not as old as I think I am. Maybe, this is my theory. I don't know if that's true, but, you know, his birth date changed a lot.
So do they have to retire at 65?
Well, they had to, like, apply to get renewal. Like, it was like a forced retirement, but if you wanted to keep going, like, I guess there were some hoops you had to jump through, right? Sure. So then he was sacked because he lied about his age and his medical license had been suspended. So they sack him, but then they rehire him when his 12 months is up. And basically when he's back on the register, then they accepted his date of birth to be 1943, which would have suggested that he would have been 14 or 15 when he started his medical degree. Right, so again, kind of dicey, but maybe possible, I guess, if he didn't really know how old he was. Not sure. It's not like in dogs you can just look at their teeth and see how old they are. Like, someone needs to come up with something like that for humans. Anyway, so then again, nothing, right? Fine. No problems at work as far as I know. Then in 2015, a patient complained that Maman had used excessive force during a bone marrow biopsy, stating he'd pushed so hard that the device actually bent. The patient was assured Maman would be put on light duties in the future and was advised that while the doctor was in his 70s and colleagues thought he should retire, they couldn't dismiss him solely because of his age. Right? Well, because he did. He really did. Then another patient that year, a 64-year-old man, went into...
No. You've seen bone marrow biopsies.
No, I haven't.
So they use like a trocar type situation into the hip bone.
Yeah. Oh, actually, no, I have. It's like a bone. Yeah, I've seen a... Yeah.
You've got to put...
The trocar in.
Kind of screw it into the bone.
Yeah.
And then use a syringe to draw out the bone.
The bone marrow.
To bend it. Like it's not... a cannula or a needle. It's like quite hard.
Like a giant piece of steel, a thick piece of steel. Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
Like a trocar, yeah.
And the hip bone is quite, I mean, it's a bone, but it's quite pliable. It's not.
So it's a miracle he didn't, like, break their femur over breaking the device. So anyway... So another patient, a 64-year-old man, went into cardiac arrest and suffered permanent disability due to Dr. Maman's negligence. The incident led to a clinical negligence claim and it led to an undisclosed settlement. So I think because it settled, they couldn't do it, like no one did anything else about it. Like the patient settled for an amount. The trust, yeah. Then in 2018... he attempts to take a bone marrow biopsy, this was like a part of his job, right?
Bone marrow biopsy is like a pretty common thing.
Like and he'd been doing them for a long time.
You can do it in like
in the clinic.
In a day procedure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not like in the oncology day unit, you don't even need to be in a...
Then in 2018, he attempts to take a bone marrow biopsy from a 48-year-old mother of 3, Shahida Paveen. Mr. Maman had initially tried to secure a sample from her hip but failed. He then attempted to gain a sample from her sternum, which is considered dangerous, obviously, because of its proximity to the heart. Mind you, he's in like his late 70s at this point, right? I'm not saying you can't be in your late 70s and be a good doctor, but...
He could be even older too.
He potentially, apparently he could have been about 81.
Oh, my God.
Right? We don't know this, right? Then he made several attempts with an incorrect needle, like an incorrect device, before eventually piercing her pericardium, caused massive internal bleeding, and then she died. And according to a statement heard by the court, one of the nurses who was working in a room next to or down the hall from where they were said that Mr. Paveen's husband ran out saying, "He killed her. I told him to stop 3 times and he didn't. He killed her." And he inserted, the wrong biopsy needle too low and completely missed her sternum. Despite extensive resus, she was pronounced dead shortly after the procedure. And mine's actually quite short and sweet. It's funny how we kind of match so well. Anyway, so he was charged with gross negligence manslaughter, and Mrs. Justice Yip sentenced him to be jailed for 3 years. That is not long enough, in my opinion. But they took it. I actually read a lot about how the sentencing works. Yeah. And I think like the motive kind of weighs quite heavily on the sentence. So factors taken into account were his level of culpability, which was relatively low, his age, and his mostly successful treatment history. So a civil claim has been started, though, by her family against him. And the trust. Liability has been admitted by the trust. Yeah. But yeah, like I know, and it gives me like goosebumps thinking about this, because you think like maybe have there been times in my career where I thought, well, this person's past it, or like have there been, it's not really something you think about whether or not the doctor. Well, I haven't really thought about whether or not a doctor's capable in a long time.
No, but I think I have not worked with anyone like that.
Yeah. And I suppose he was on his own too, just with his patients. Like, it's not like he had a scrub nurse or something going, hey, let's stop this. Like, No,
that's right. And like the husband was in the room and everything.
Telling him to stop. Yeah, pretty awful.
God, that is awful.
And like he'd attempted to get it from her hip and thought, no, can't get it. Let's go for the sternum, and then killed her. And I mean, yeah, it was an accident. Like I don't think he meant to kill her at all. But do you think he meant to kill her?
No, not at all. But I think that
the risk was so high.
Too high that I don't know if you can call it an accident. Like I feel like maybe it was accidental, but it's not.
No, I agree. You've taken a huge risk, yeah.
To do that, and you decided to do that when really, in reality, you could have sent her somewhere else, or told her to come back, or do it in a hospital setting, or wherever you might have got someone else to do it. Like, because like the reason why people have bone marrow biopsies is they're sick, with something and you don't know what. Like it's shit. That's awful.
So awful.
And I think it just adds to the. Like, I mean, he probably had a really good run in his career. Yeah. And it's just that he got old.
Yeah. And then I wonder too, like, if he was lying about his age, what else was he lying about? Was he having, memory slips, or was he having issues with his joints, or like,
That's right. Could he not hold was he powerful enough to... And why can't you just stop?
Yeah.
Why can't you stop?
Well, then I tried really hard to find more information. Like, was he in debt? Like, was he a drinker?
Because I see people that we work with that are like old, and I think, why are you still working?
Just retire. Do you really need the money?
Are you bored?
Yeah. Is it because you're an empty nester? And
like, why do you want to keep working at 0.6 or 0.8? Like, shit, go away. Have some fun.
I agree. Yeah, I'm always curious about
why people want to.
Yeah, why would he want to work till he was 81? And he's a doctor. He's a haematologist.
I know, they make a lot of money.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what? I don't get it.
I'm going to have to work till I'm 81 because he lives at the moment.
The what?
Because he lives.
Oh, the cost of living. Is that really? What is that? Because he lives.
Because he lives.
Who says that?
I've never heard
all the
Gen Xers.
Gen X.
That's me. All us. We all say because he lives.
Do you know there's this thing at the moment? Have you seen there's like a thing going on about millennials? We know you're millennials because you wear ankle socks. Have you been seeing this?
Yeah, I refuse to wear. I want to wear hideaway socks all the time.
I just
I'm
don't
not
want
wearing.
to wear. I don't want my socks to touch my tights.
I don't want anything to touch my pant legs.
I don't. Yeah, but I do not get.
I don't get the look either.
I don't
It's
get
awful.
the socks
Amelia
over
loves-
the leggings. No, I get the long sock thing because it does make your legs look nice. Like I
No,
agree
not
with
my
that.
legs.
Like not long, but like the crew socks. I get that when
Not
they're
my legs.
when you got and I'll wear like crew socks with my white sneakers. Like that looks cool. But and also I wear crew socks if I'm wearing shorts, but I won't wear crew socks with my leggings. Especially, what am I supposed to do? And I'm 32. I'm not 22.
You're not even an elder millennial. You're like a mid-millennial.
How do you know? I was 8 at the millennium.
No, that's not when the millennials are.
I know.
Millennials
Well, we were always Gen Y. I don't know why this has changed.
Maybe you're not. Oh, no, because it has to change. Oh, I've got something in my eye.
Ugh.
God, what a Gen X.
How did we get onto this?
Don't know.
Because he lives. That's
'Cause he
why.
lives.
You're off your head.
Anyway.
Anyway, thanks for joining us.
You
on
know
our
what is
Dr. Sue
free?
Kill.
But do you know what is free?
Leaving a 5-star review.
Correct.
You know what's not free? Buying us a coffee for $5.
Do you know what is also not $5? A fucking coffee these days.
If you go to Jen's, just a little plug for Jen's.
Jen's, old Jen's.
Old Jen's Fine Foods.
Might be Kel's in a while.
It will be Kel's.
It will not be Kel's.
Public pressure. I was thinking that if you bought it, would you call it Kelly's? And everyone would be like, I'm just calling it Kelly's. I'm trying to convince Kelly to buy a cafe, a really good cafe that Kelly would just smash. There'd be bulk thermo mixes. There'd be.
Do you know how expensive
Yeah, I
thermoses
know.
are?
I really want one. I
There
want
would
one for
not
my
be
40th. I've
bulk
got
therm-
8 years to
Oh,
save
they'll
up
be
for
like
one.
$4,000 by then.
Oh God.
I'm not buying cafe. Anyway. I'd have to live in it.
That could be arranged.
Right, leave us a 5-star review. If you want to buy us a coffee, go buy us a coffee.
Yeah.
Buy us a coffee.com/humorousness. I'm not sure.
I don't even know. Just go to the link in our bio.
Yeah.
Follow
Link in
us
our
on his.
bio.
Yeah. Go. Why is that funny? It's the truth.
I know.
What the fuck?
It's just so funny.
Go- do you know what is funny?
What?
I feel like this is a mini debrief at the end of a Dr. Sue Kill. I had a EN who's doing her RN, Sarah, come up to me at work because I've been doing some keeping in touch hours, and she goes, "Oh, I was at uni in Albury, and like they must get everybody together,
Yeah, to do
for their
their
like,
practical
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
And she said there was this girl from Melbourne who was talking about this podcast that she listens to and these two nurses that are just so funny. And Sarah's ears pricked up. She's like, oh, what are you talking about? And this girl's like, oh, two humorous nurses. Like, do you listen to it? It's so funny. And Sarah's like, I work with them. I'm like, oh, you let a little flex moment? She's like, yeah, I felt like I knew famous people. I'm like, did you tell them that we're just like boring when we work at a little hospital?
Famous people. We're not boring though. We are funny.
We are fun.
Fun.
You're funny, I'm fun. You're kind of fun. You're pretty fun.
Oh, I have to be in the mood to be fun though.
Same. It's called
Too old to be fun now.
It's called the ADHD nighttime zoomies.
All right. Well, go follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
Two Humorous Nurses and a private Facebook page. Two Humorous Nurses. Nothing happens in there.
I was thinking you're plugging the Facebook page, and I never do anything in there, and I really need to be better. If only Ritalin would work for like 14 hours, that would be so much better. I literally feel it wearing off, and my eyes go fuzzy. I'm like,
Oh, no.
ping.
Okay, bye.